Hi, good morning, ladies. How are you? I hope we all had a great weekend. I'm not sure if you can see me. If you can see me, let me know. If you can hear me, let me know in the chat box. I hope we all had a good weekend and we've started our week on a high note. So if you can see me and hear me well, let me know before we start on anything. My name is Beryl Atieno. I should be taking you through today's session. I'm a trainer at Impacta, and I have my colleague in the chat box. I'm sure you've interacted with her before, Sandra. So she should be able to answer to any questions or any comments that you have in the chat box. Hi, Linda. Good morning. Sono, Youth Paul Niger, you were here early. Welcome, and thank you so much for keeping time. We have John. Hi, John. Good morning. Chimezie. Good morning, everyone. Chimezie has joined us from Lagos. And Sono Viva has given us a brief introduction about what Sono is, an indigenous food, fashion, lifestyle, and education brand with head office in Lagos, Nigeria. That's nice. Thank you. I hope I hope you'll be able to learn so much about how to stay productive online, because we know as it is, ever since COVID hit, we had so many people transition from office environment to working from home. So how were they able to maintain their productivity while working remotely and online? Hi, Visma. I'm so happy. I love the numbers. I love the energy. This is nice. Amara, Margaret, Ngozi, thank you all for joining us. Thank you so much. This is good energy. I love it. So I'll just redo my introduction again for those who've joined us right now. My name is Beryl Atieno. I'll be taking you through today's session. I have my colleague Sandra in the chat box. I'm sure you've interacted with her before because we've had a couple of sessions. And you feel free to put on any questions that you have, any comments in the chat box. Let's make this so interactive. I'd like to see your questions. I'd like to hear your questions. I'll be coming back to read on the questions and answer what I can, but most of them Sandra will be, answering to them in the chat box. So it's 5 minutes past time. I think you should be able to start the session. Are we all ready to start the session? So if you're ready, just give me a yes. Give me a go ahead in the chat box. Let me know if I should kickstart this session. If you're ready to start the session, give me a yes in the chat box. I'm waiting for your go ahead. Thank you, Tolupe, Azumini, Chimezie. Thank you. Okay, awesome. Let's start. So, like I mentioned, this is today's topic. We are going to talk about how to stay productive online if we've transitioned from the office environment to working from home, and working remotely doesn't necessarily be from the house, doesn't necessarily has to be from the house. So how do you maintain your productivity if you are at 80% or 90% or probably 70% productive in the office? How do you maintain that, or how do you prorate this percentage upwards? Okay, so this is what you're going to cover. We've put this into three topics. The first one is how to set up your remote office, and then how to build a productive work environment. If you already set up your office, how do you maintain productivity around this? And then how to manage and maintain your well-being. Because at the end of the day, if you're not in the right state of mind, if you're not working in the right environment, there's absolutely no way you're going to be productive. So how do you manage your mental well-being, social well-being, to ensure that your work productivity is top notch? But before we start, we've talked about the Google Hustle Academy. If you'd like to learn more, if you have a business, you don't necessarily have to own a business. You could have an idea, a business idea, but you don't know how to go about it. So how do you work around knowing the digital techniques that you can use to run your business? You can sign up for the Google Hustle Academy. That's the link there, g.co/slash Hustle Academy. Sandra will drop the link in the chat box. You can just copy it and paste it on your browser. Then you can subscribe or sign up for Google Hustle Academy after this session. So make sure you copy the link and paste it on your browser. You should be able to check it out after this session. I'll ask a question. Uh, COVID COVID-19 hit around 2020 and it affected most of our work and how we were working. So how did it affect your role? If you are in employment or if you are running a business, how did COVID-19 impact your role? And it's not necessarily in the past tense because the effects have spilled over to this year. That's 2021 last year and 2022 this year. So how has this impacted your role? Okay, the link to Google Hustle Academy has been pasted in the chat box with Sandra. So let me know in the chat box, how has COVID-19 impacted your role? Whether you are in employment or whether you are running a business, how did COVID-19 impact your role? I'm looking at your comment section. I'd like to know, how has COVID-19 impacted your role? Do you have any answers or are we all okay? Did our business stay, normal from before and after COVID? Were there no changes? Were there any changes? I'd like to know how the pandemic affected your business or your employment. Hi, Omusoi and Uniquely. Hi, Rachel. Yeah. So COVID-19 didn't affect any of us at all, because I know for a fact it affected me in my role. I'm not sure about yours. I would like to know. Okay, for the first time, lovely. Thank you, Joanne. That's a good encouragement. So Nena says it made me appreciate the internet that is using for my business. Yeah, sure. I think most people didn't know how to really leverage the internet to work around their businesses. So we were mostly on the traditional forms of marketing or probably relying on face-to-face interactions with our clients. So COVID-19 made us learn how to, work around the digital perspective on running businesses. So Bunmi says the pandemic had made me and my business more digitally inclined. Awesome, awesome. And Binta says I got employed by my former employer in May 2020. I love that. I love that you got back to re-employment because most people really lost their jobs. So if you got back, that's a good, it's a plus for you. That's good. So we'll move on because we have a lot to cover. Now, we talked about how to set up your remote office. This is the first thing you're going to talk about today. How do you go about it? The first thing you need to understand is what is remote working. So we've talked about how to set up a remote office, but what do we mean when we say you're working remotely? So basically, working remotely is it's a working style that allows professionals to work outside the traditional office environment. So you're not confined to, if it's an 8 to 5 job or 9 to 6, you're not confined to the normal routine of waking up, preparing, leaving the house, and going to the office, the physical office. So you get to access your work documents or access any apps that you're working with, but from the comfort of your home. And I don't mean comfort like in your bed. You need to have a working space for yourself. Okay. So where can people work remotely? You can work from home. Like me, I'm currently working from home. So you can work from home. You can work from a coffee shop. But you also have to ensure that if you're having meetings or things like that, the background, you're in a space where you don't have distractions, where you can communicate with your workers freely. You can have meetings where you're able to communicate in in a good manner. The other thing, you can have a co-working space. So there are different environments that offer co-working spaces. There are libraries that have working spaces. And then I think with the COVID-19, I saw some organization come up with, I can't remember the name, it came up with working space where you pay. So they have different workstations and you pay for a day. So it's daily payment to, it's like hiring a space to work for yourself, but it's not, it's for, you make daily payments. All right. So there's also that you can share your co-working space, and then their libraries. I've talked about this. If you've interacted with any of this, if you've worked from home, if you worked from a coffee shop or co-working space or library, you can also let us know in the chat box. I think it's all about interaction, it's all about learning. So let's do that. What do you need to work remotely? All right. What do you need to work remotely? You've defined what remote working is. So how do you create a remote working space for yourself? What do you need to work remotely? The first thing is a dedicated working space. We've mentioned you can do home, library, co-working space you can share, or a coffee shop, but you need to have a dedicated workspace, a go-to place where, if I sit down here, I'll be able to concentrate on my work. I'll be able to do what I'm supposed to do without micromanagement, maybe from your bosses. You're able to be productive on your own and focus on the kind of work that you're doing. The next thing, you need devices. If you choose to work maybe in a coffee shop, do they have charging ports? Are you able to connect your laptop? If they have Wi-Fi, secure Wi-Fi, that is, take note of that, secure Wi-Fi. So what are the kind of things that you might need to ensure that you have a good, remote working space? So you need devices. If you're using a tablet, if you're using a laptop, the chargers, Wi-Fi, you can, the charging ports. So basically, what will make you, if you're seated in one place, you don't have to move around. Oh, I don't have internet. Oh, I can't charge my laptop. So you need all those things in one place. All right. So creating your working space. If you're working from home, that is, first thing you need to do is to avoid the bed or the couch. So avoid a lot of comfort for yourself. Have a space where you're able to focus, to really focus. So avoid the bed or couch. You can get a study table or a chair, a comfortable chair for yourself, and a study table. So you can have that. Some people work on their dining sets, but make sure it's comfortable for you and it's a place where you're able to, be productive in your work. The other thing is to make sure your space is comfortable. This is in terms of lighting. If you're someone who has a lot of meetings, you need to ensure that you can you can be seen in the meetings. That is, if you have your video on, or you can see the people who, the people who you're communicating with. So ensure your space is comfortable. The other thing is to consider your posture. You need to be upright. That's the thing also about avoiding the bed or couch. All right. You need to have a good posture for yourself. Upright posture is the same as, this is the kind of posture that, if you're working in the office as well, it's the same posture for yourself at home. It's nothing different. All right. You've just brought your office station to your home environment. All right. All right. So I've just popped in to check the comments, and I'm loving this. Marvelous has said COVID-19 has impacted my role. It made me take my business online. All right. That is good. Let's keep interacting in the chat section. The next thing, what are the physical equipments that you might need? The first thing is your phone. You always need to be accessible to your coworkers. If there's an issue or if they need any clarification or anything, you should be accessible on phone, either on call or on WhatsApp. If you communicate a lot on WhatsApp or text message, make sure you're accessible on phone. All right. The next thing is you need a computer. There are apps that, of course, with mobile, you can access most apps on mobile, and they're really mobile friendly. But some apps you work better with them when you look at them from a laptop screen. You understand? So make sure you also have a computer for yourself. Next thing is to have a notebook. I think first thing in the morning, what normally works is to have a to-do list for yourself for throughout the day. So if it's today, I know I'm supposed to have this training with Fidelity Bank. I'm supposed to have a meeting with so and so. What do I need to cover today? What do I need to achieve at the end of the day? If my coworker has called me and she needs something urgent, I need to put that down to always remember. So always have a notebook to put down the most important things to always remember, so that you make sure you don't miss anything. And it also helps to track yourself. If I wrote at the end of the day, I need to have achieved this, what have I ticked out of that? What do I have remaining? All right. And you also need a stable power. Mm? To be productive, you need to have stable power supply. If you have issues with your if you have issues with your power, make sure you get um, make sure you get maybe power banks or an inverter that can help you continue working even after you've lost your power supply. All right, because with power supply, um, you can't have control over that. But if you lose your power supply, what mitigation issues do you have once it happens? All right, so you can have a generator, you can have power banks. Solar powered devices actually really work. So if you can get access to them, the better. If you can get access to inverters, the better for you. All right, so maybe you're running a meeting and you've lost your power supply and you're probably the one who was talking. I mean, if you have a backup plan, it helps you to continue with your meeting, things like that. All right. You also need to find sufficient internet connections. There are several internet service providers, but you need to choose the best and consistent and a fast one. Also, I know most of us choose the internet supply provider according to the cost. All right. So maybe they're doing 3 Mbps, but is it sufficient enough for you to work effectively? Is it fast enough? Yeah. So you had better go for something quality that will make you ensure your productivity than choosing a cheap provider and then not being able to be effective in your work. Okay. So first thing when choosing your internet connections, choose the right ISP. That one I've talked about. Consider a substitute. So if like here in Kenya, we have Safaricom, we have Airtel, we have poor internet. So I can, like right now, I'm working with Safaricom, all right, or Vodacom. I don't know the kind of internet providers that you have, but I know the next one. If Safaricom doesn't work for me, I can choose to work with poor internet. Yeah, so it's the second best. So I have alternatives. The next thing is to have a router. Always have a router for yourself. If you have a router in your own house, it helps you have control. All right. And you also, router goes hand in hand with the Wi-Fi, obviously. So if you need, some buildings offer the Wi-Fi but don't give you a router, but it's better if you have your own router in your own house. It gives you some control over it. Sometimes the internet can be slow. You can restart the router yourself. You don't need to start making calls and probably delay your work. And you also need to test and compare internet speeds. That's why I mentioned, if you have alternative internet service providers and you choose Safaricom, it's because it's fast and they offer like 20 Mbps at this cost, then the next one offers this and this. So compare speeds. If you're a developer, you do a lot of websites, I know that's really bulky for you. So you really need fast internet for yourself. Okay, if you're into IT, you really need fast internet for yourself. If you're using a lot of apps, you need fast internet. What are the challenges of working remotely? The challenges we all experience when working remotely. So, what are the kind of challenges that you experience while working remotely? If you've worked remotely, you can let me know also in the chat box. What challenges have you experienced? What kind of challenges have we experienced when working remotely? If you've worked remotely, you can let me know in the chat box. I'm following on your comments. Don't think I'm ignoring you. All right. Because I also want to learn from you. So if you have any challenges that you've experienced, you can also let us know. The first thing is loneliness, lack of social interaction. Sometimes you feel like you need to talk to someone, you know, maybe you've concentrated for like 2 or 3 hours on one task and you just need a breather, you need to talk to someone, you're alone. So that is one of the challenges. The other thing is self-discipline. You need discipline to work online. You need to know, if I used to report to the office at 8 and leave at 5, it doesn't mean if I'm working from home I'll start working at 10 or 11 and still say I am productive. If you're productive, then be disciplined about it. You don't need someone to follow you around to to be able to be productive. All right. The next thing is no employee benefits. What are the kind of benefits that I'm saying? Maybe you are being offered lunch in the office. All right. Now you have to cook for yourself lunch. This is, it's small things, but it's still benefit at the end of the day. If they used to give you transport allowance, now there's no transport allowance. You're working from home, so you lose some of these benefits. And it's also hard to switch off when you're working from home. It's very hard to switch off. The next thing, you have the fear of missing out. You always feel like, oh, I'm missing out. If there's the kind of rapport you had with your colleagues, and maybe during tea break or lunch hour you guys used to chat a lot. So there's that. You feel like you're missing out on things that are happening. All right. So these are kind of the challenges that you can experience when working from home. But with challenges also comes benefits. There's pros and cons to everything. So what are the kind of benefits that you get from remote working? We've talked about the challenges. Now these are the benefits. You're flexible, especially with your time. You know, um, you can decide, I can work from 8 to 6 or 9 to 7 or 9 to 8. So you're flexible with your timings, but you still have to make sure that at the end of the day, even if you've worked around different times, if you've started working at 10, you still have to make sure you've worked the correct amount of hours in that day and you're productive. The next thing is no commuting. Don't experience traffic jams. That time for commuting, you can start working at that time from the house. So that's also a benefit. You get to spend time with family. If you used to work maybe till late into the night and you used to leave very early in the morning, you didn't have time, if you have kids, probably to interact with your kids, you get time to see them around you. That is for the time that you're at home. But of course, you also have to ensure that they don't distract you in your work. So there's also less distraction. Sometimes at the office, you have colleagues who are coming at your desk and they want to talk about, like, today is Monday and everyone has Monday blues. And you get in the office at 8, everyone wants to talk about what they did over the weekend, if they went to a concert, if they attended any event, they want to talk about that. Before you know it, it's 11, it's 12. You haven't done anything. You haven't started on any work. So benefit of working from home, you get less distractions and you have high morale. If I talked about the to-do list, I know I'm supposed to achieve this at the end of the day. I have the self, I can push myself. I can push myself to know I need to do this by end of the day. So I'm giving myself positive pressure, yeah, to make sure that I achieve my goals, because I also want to show that me working from home does not mean that I'm not productive. All right. The other thing, it reduces the overhead costs for offices. If we have um, all our employees working from home, or they're going to the office like twice or thrice a week, then it reduces probably cost for internet. It reduces electricity costs or water costs. If you are providing tea for them or lunch for them, it reduces all these costs. So all the costs are prorated downwards, especially for the business. The other thing is greater productivity. We talked about high morale, all right? So with high morale, it ensures that if your employees or your workers have high morale in the kind of work that they're doing, if they're focused, they have less distractions while working from home. So generally, it increases the productivity of the kind of work that they're producing. Okay. And you also have access to a wider pool of talent. I mean, if I'm based in Lagos, let's say I'm based in Lagos, and I needed probably a software engineer or something like that, and they're based in another state or in another city, I don't have to have them move to Lagos to work for me. They can just work from where they are, so long as they access what they need. If they're apps, if they're platforms, what do they need to be effective in their work? All right. So you have access to a wider pool of talent that is not limited by their geographical coverage. And the next thing is you also have improved employee retention. If your employees are comfortable at the end of the day, their mental state is comfortable, they're able to, they're comfortable with the work, they're comfortable with the organization, they don't want to leave, because it's what do I call it, it's good working environment for them, especially in regards to their mental state. All right, a happy employee is a productive employee. Okay, so up to there, I'll pause for questions. Do we have any questions? Do you have any questions? All right. One of the other benefits I can see here, Tofomi has said conveniency. Yes, it's also convenient to have people to be able to work from home. It's convenient. You're able to do other things. Sometimes you can stretch and walk. So it's convenient for you. You can multitask on a lot of things, but still ensure you're productive. Okay? Gift has said flexibility, convenience, stress-free comfort. Correct. Those are good answers. I love them. Do you have any questions? Do you have any questions? Do you have any questions? So one of the challenges, Sherifat has said, at times it slows the work when you can't access a coworker or an employee. All right, I'm sure we'll be able to cover this on how to make yourself accessible. We should be able to cover this as we move on. Okay, another benefit, Nena has said, relaxed atmosphere. Do you have any questions? Or should I move on? If you think I should move on, you can also give me an emoji. Let me see, the first emoji will come from who? If it's a thumbs up, who will give me the first go ahead to continue? Those are the questions. Yes, thank you, Linda. Thanks. Aisha is asking, how can I make myself be able to cover my assignment for the day? So, like I mentioned, you can have a to-do list for yourself. You at the, I mean, probably beginning of the week, you know what you're supposed to achieve by end of the week. So you can break this down into smaller tasks, smaller achievable tasks. So make sure if you have goals for the week, break that down into smaller achievable tasks and schedule them for the different days of the week, so that at the end of the week, if I was supposed to get reach out to so and so and get feedback by Friday, I I know I sent the email out on Monday, I followed up on Tuesday or followed up on Wednesday, things like that. Thank you. Those are good emojis. I think that's go ahead for me to move on. The next thing is how to build a productive work environment for yourself. How do you make sure that you're productive? How is your work environment conducive for you? All right. So, why is your work environment important? Why do you think you need to have a conducive work environment? Or how do you go about this? The quality of your workspace is vital to your productivity. You can put that in bold and always remember that the quality of your workspace is vital to your productivity. So we talked about setting up a workstation for yourself. This means you have to designate an area. If it's in your living room, set up a space in the corner of your living room with good lighting, access to, a charging port. So designate an area where if I sit there and work, I don't have distractions. You understand? So designate an area for yourself. Could be in the sitting room. Some people have, I mean, huge bedroom. So you can set up a corner in your bedroom. Just make sure you don't show us your bed. Okay. Yeah. Then the next thing, find the right chair for you. We talked about an upright posture for yourself. Ensure that you get the right chair for you, because you also, if you spend so much time sitting and working, we don't have to, you don't want to have back problems. So get a right chair for you, get a filing system to organize your life. If you have incoming mail, outbound mail, if there are documents that you need to sign or those that you have signed already, or documents you need to dispatch, make sure you have a proper filing system for yourself to avoid confusion. All right? So if you're looking at statistics to prove why, um, to prove how you can be productive online, you can see a 40% decrease in productivity is usually due to workplace distractions, and 27% increase in errors. So we talked about, I gave an example like Monday blues. You came in the office at 8. You have people talking about their weekend, if Davido was performing, yeah, if Bada Boy was performing, and everyone wants to talk about that. Yeah, and then time has moved, you haven't done anything, and you had goals that you needed to achieve at the end of the day. So if, working remotely helps to decrease these distractions. And the other thing, if you are less distracted, you're less likely to make errors. All right, so that's why these distractions have caused an 27% increase in errors. So with the distractions, of course, errors reduce, productivity increases. Right? How do you minimize distractions? We have set up our remote office. How do you minimize distractions in your remote office? Yeah. You can also tell me if you've been working from home, running your business from home. Let me know how, what you have been doing in trying to curb the distractions that may come about by working online. The first thing is to let others know your work hours. If I sit at my remote station from 8 to 5, or if it's from 9 to 6, I know these times I'm supposed to be working. So I don't want, if it's friends who want to call and talk about, I don't know what, because we like catching up with friends. I know we like catching up with friends, but you can always let them know, I'm not available to talk for long unless it is outright emergency, But if it's just these social things of storytelling and everything, make sure this is done outside of work hours. Yeah. The next thing is to do one thing at a time. I insist, make sure you always have a to-do list for yourself. It helps you in tracking your productivity. It helps in reducing confusion. It helps you understand the progress that you're making towards achieving either your daily goals or your weekly goals. So do one thing at a time. The next thing is to avoid TV and household distractions. I don't I somehow don't understand how people are able to work with, there's a program going on, there's music, you want to dance, you want to work. These are also some of the distractions that will help you, that will cause you to make errors. So try and avoid these distractions. Distractions don't have to come from your coworkers only. Okay, so put away all your pets. We don't have to have meetings like this and then I have a dog jumping over my camera now, or I have to push away my dog and I'm in a serious training. Okay, so make sure you put away all your pets. The next thing is to take regular breaks. Your mental state has to be correct when you're working. So make sure you take regular breaks. You can take a walk, for like, you can take a 10-minute walk or 5-minute walk, just to, get a breather, then come back in and continue with your work. How can you improve productivity within teams? This one we've talked about how to minimize distractions. So we've minimized the distractions. Now, how can you improve the productivity? Okay? How can you improve productivity, especially if you're working as a team? Yeah. With project management, there are several tools. There are several tools that you can use to ensure you track the productivity of your team members. You know, there's the Mural, there's Asana, there's Trello, there's Basecamp. You can work with Google Docs. Yeah, you can work with Google Docs. So what kind, if you can also do Google Slides, if I mean not slides, you can do spreadsheets to track productivity of your team members. But the first thing you need to do is to establish vision and deliverables. If your team members understand the vision, what is expected of them, it helps them stay on course. You have to give them deliverables. They should know at the end of the day, at the end of the week, this is what is expected from them. The other thing is to establish logistics for team communication. If your team members need Wi-Fi or they need credit to make calls, you should be able to facilitate this to ensure they are productive. The next thing is to promote visibility and transparency. Visibility is, if we are all sharing a Google spreadsheet or something like that, I should be able to know, and the lists of tasks over there, I should be able to know Beryl worked on this, Sandra worked on this, or Sandra is working on this, and Beryl is working on this. So there's a lot of transparency on the kind of work that you're doing. And you also need to track the quality and status of projects. You understand? Because there's no point in being productive quantity wise and you're producing less quality. So with some of these project management tools, you're able to understand and track the quality and status of projects. If it's still in the planning stage, implementation stage, closure stage, I mean, I should be able to understand how is the project ongoing. You understand? And I should be also to know the kind of challenges that we are experiencing to be able to, I mean, to not be able to achieve what is expected for us. So with this project management tools, I'm able to identify and address challenges. That is stroke bottlenecks. The bottlenecks, that is number 5. Okay. Our next slide, it gives us also a statistic, because it's important to work with data. We can't just work with theory. So we also need data to justify why we are talking about what we are talking about. 70% of workplace mistakes are due to poor communication. You should be able, there should be channels of communication. You should have channels of communication. All right. So people are working from home. You need to track their productivity. You need transparency and visibility. That means people have to talk. People have to say, I'm working on this. I'm stuck here. What should I do this? What should I do here? I need so and so's help on this. So make sure communication is top notch. It helps reduce the mistakes that we might experience at work. Now, on general communication, I've already talked about why communication is important in working remotely. So, what are the kind of apps that you can use for, I mean, to ensure communication? There is Slack. It's, I mean, you can have a general group for everyone in the organization, or you can also create groups maybe for management, for finance, for website developers. You can create groups where they just log on to Slack and they communicate there. There's Gmail. If you need to write emails, you can use Gmail. Make sure you copy the right people in the emails. Make sure you leave traces of communication that you've had with colleagues or with your seniors. Make sure you have traces of communication with them. So make sure you leverage on email. There's HubSpot. There's also Google Hangouts. Make sure you use these apps to ensure that your communication is top notch for your business. It helps in increasing the collaboration and coordination that you might have with, I mean, that you should be having with your teammates. Some also use WhatsApp. If you need instant replies on some things, you can also use WhatsApp, but make sure you also utilize the official apps for, I mean, communication apps. Now, you also need to set rules. you've decided, you've communicated that you need the correct channels, you've decided on the platforms that you're going to use. What are the rules for communication? What are the kind of rules that you need for communication? What's the turnaround time for feedback? If I message you, I expect you to respond by how long? How long should I expect your feedback? So there's a question that I had read there, and someone had asked, had said they have a hard time getting response from their coworkers. So this is it. Ensure they're on the right platforms. You communicate on the right platforms. Ensure they understand the rules for communication. If it's a turnaround time for response, I expect a response by 10 to 15 minutes or 30 minutes. I expect a response, a turnaround time for feedback by then. And communication, we've talked about it. I mean, also the kind of message and context. If it's really official, kindly use an email. I would recommend use an email for all official communications. All right. And then you need to set and role model guidelines around this. Make sure your colleagues or coworkers understand the rules that govern communication within the organization. So it helps to reduce, I mean, it helps to work around the productivity of everyone. So I mean, I won't say I was not productive this day because so and so did not respond to my email on time, did not respond to my message on time. I mean, I should be able to ask them, why didn't you respond on time? Yet turnaround time for feedback is 30 minutes or so and so. All right. So make sure there are rules governing around that. For video meetings and calls, there are very many apps that you can use for video meetings and calls. So apps does your what apps does your organization want to work with? There's Google Meet. Most people use Google Meet. It's nice. There's Zoom. There's Teams, Microsoft Teams. There's Skype, and then there's WhatsApp. So if you do a lot of video calls, you can use either of these apps. It helps in boosting collaboration, improving your levels of communication. So you can use either of these. You decide the kind of platforms that work for you and your business. All right. Talking about Google Meet. So this is it about Google Meet. You keep your team connected with enterprise grade video conferencing. It's owned by Google. So you can have Google Meet, we've talked about it. And then the Zoom. With all this, you're still able to, with Google Meet and Zoom and Skype, you're able to even share your screen. All right. You can do presentations online. So it's more or less like we are all in a physical room, just not physical. You're able to see my slide. Like right now, we're working with, right now it's YouTube, but you're able to communicate. So there are also features on this app that you can use. Maybe you can mute your audience, you can have them talk if they want to, you can make the chat box accessible for them if you want to see feedback from them. All right, so utilize the features that these applications offer for yourself. So basically, Google Meet, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, and Skype offer more or less the same kind of features for yourself. I mean, or for video meetings, they more or less offer the same features. So you just need to hop onto them and work around them, look at what will work for you, what will not work for you, and choose the appropriate app for you. Okay. WhatsApp doesn't give you an option for sharing your screen if you're doing a presentation. So it's just maybe a face-to-face conversation. If you're looking at sharing your screen, you can use the other platforms. Now, how do you run effective meetings? How do you run effective meetings? I've set up a meeting with Sandra, or I've set up a meeting with Clementina. How do I want it to be effective? One thing they need to know is, even before the meeting, there has to be an agenda. You need to have an agenda for all meetings. And then you need to also ensure your tone of voice is correct to what you want to deliver in the meeting. What is your tone of voice? Is it just social meeting? Is it a work meeting? I mean, what is the kind of tone that I'm going to use during my communication or during my delivery in the meeting. Okay, also encourage using cameras, because with cameras you're able to see the facial expressions of someone, which give a lot of which help in giving emphasis on the delivery of their content. Yeah, so you're able to understand better, you're able to see the emphasis on some topics, you're able to see the emphasis on some words. So ensure you encourage a lot of cameras, and be timely. If you set up a meeting for 1 hour, it's 1 hour. If it's 1 hour, 10 minutes or 5 minutes late should be 5 minutes. Make sure you're logged onto the meeting before it starts. Don't wait for the meeting to start at 12, and then it's when you're logging into the meeting. What if you experience technical issues? Yeah. So just to curb some of these technical issues that come about in meetings, make sure you log in on time, your audio is right, your video is right, so you just wait for the meeting to roll out. There's also some video conferencing etiquette that you should adhere to. All right. There's the video etiquette that you should adhere to. The first thing, prepare yourself for the meeting. When the meeting starts, know already, we talked about the agenda, know what you're supposed to talk about. Yeah, don't get on all confused on the platform. The next thing, dress appropriately for your meeting. All right. I mean, if you have an early morning meeting and you have your video on, you can't be in your nightgown. No, you cannot be in your nightgown. What if it was in the office? Would you go to the office with your nightgown? The next thing is to consider your lighting. Make sure you're well seen. Make sure people on the other end can see you well. No shadows or things like that. Consider your background as well. If you have your remote office in the bedroom, I talked about, we don't want to see your bed. So make sure your background it's not distracting or busy, so that it refocuses the attention of your audience. And consider your audio. You can test your audio even before the meeting. Make sure you can be heard well. Make sure make sure your audio is just, smooth, so that people can get to hear you. What are the tips for collaborating effectively? What are some of the tips that you can use to collaborate effectively? Yeah. The first thing, equip your team with the right tools. We've talked about the tools that you can use. We've talked about the tools that you can use. If it's on project management, there's Trello and those things. If it's video conferencing, you know what it's needed. If they need internet, if they need credit, make sure all this is provided to your teammates. Make project management easier. We've talked about the tools that you can use for your project management. All right, to be able to track productivity of your teammates, make sure you leverage on these tools. So you can just even go on your search engine and search and Google the kind of project management tools that you can use for team collaboration. Make document sharing easy and accessible. You can do this on you can use drives. So with Google, there's the Google Drive. So you can share documents with your teammates there, make the documents accessible to them. If it's Google spreadsheets, if it's Google Docs, make this accessible to ensure effectiveness in work of your teammates. Ensure collaboration with departments. All right. So an organization is like, it's like a car. A car needs four wheels to move. So if you're on the front wheel, right front wheel, or left front wheel, you can't move without the back wheels. So ensure that you collaborate with other departments, so that you're moving all in one direction. You understand the vision that is expected of you, and you need to prioritize company culture. Everyone is different. We're all from different environments. We've come together. The company culture brings you together and gives you one goal to focus on. Now we'll go over the final tips for productivity. Over communicate. It's better than under communicating. Give details of what you're doing. Give the minute details. Give me the nitty gritties. It's better than under communicating. All right. Be disciplined. Be disciplined. We talked about self-discipline. Know what is expected of you. Don't wait for your manager to breathe down your neck to micromanage you for you to be productive. Have your tools ready for work. Always have your tools ready for work. If it's your laptop, have it ready with you. If it's your phone, be accessible. All right, don't go to your friend's house over the weekend, you left your charger there, your laptop is here, now you can't work because you don't have your charger with you. Make all your tools accessible and, I mean, convenient where you are and your workspace. Find your booster and use it. What gets you energized? What gives you high morale? You know, so leverage on that. Leverage on what gives you the morale and the booster to ensure that you're productive. So I'll pause briefly for questions. I'll take one or two questions because we have some other slides that we need to cover. So I'll take one or two questions. I'm sure Sandra is doing a good job in the workspace. The attendance link has been dropped and it's been pinned. Make sure you fill the attendance form before the class ends. Kindly make sure you fill the attendance form before the class ends. All right. So we don't want you to say, oh, I didn't fill in the form, but that's maybe in the next session. Make sure you fill the attendance form right now. The attendance link has been uh, uh, pinned in the chat box. It's been pinned. You can see it. All right. Do we have any questions? Do we have any questions? Any questions? I'm looking at the chat box. I'll pick one or two questions. Okay. I think we'll move on to our final part of this training. So the final part of the training, how do you manage and maintain your well-being? How do you manage and maintain your well-being? Why is it important to manage your well-being? Like I said, a happy colleague is a productive colleague, but how do you make them happy? How do you ensure that you're happy? How do you ensure that you're productive? All right. The first thing on why it's important to manage your well-being is because it impacts your overall health. If your mental state is not good, it at the end of the day it will affect your physical being. So always ensure that your mental state, it starts with the mind. Have a clear mind, I mean, have a calm mind, and it also helps in reducing any effects that may come about not having a proper well state of mind. It also leads to greater productivity. If you have a clear mind, you'll be more productive. It also increases your resilience. You're able to soak things in and absorb positive energy from whatever has happened, and channel it to your work, and you can take some bit of pressure, because at the end of the day there's pressure in every workforce. There are times that you have pressure at work. How can you soak it in and still be productive? Look at the brighter side of things. Speak on the positive things that will make you be productive. The other thing, it also boosts your morale and levels of happiness. All right. Now, what can you do? Now, that was the importance of of ensuring you have a proper well-being. Or what can you do to manage your well-being? What can you do to ensure that you're managing your well-being? Set up reminders to take breaks. I mentioned about breaks. Make sure after 3 hours or 2 hours of sitting, you take a walk. Go see some sun. Look outside your window if you don't want to go outside, but make sure you take breaks. You're not a robot. Be clear with the team when you're leaving. If probably after this meeting, I'll need to take like 10 minutes break, I should be able to inform my colleagues, I'm not on my laptop right now. Just give me a few seconds. I'll get back to you. Just let me know what you need. I'll get back to you when I get back to my laptop. Turn off notifications when on a break. Breathe. Take a breather. All right. Schedule in an activity like taking a walk, riding a bike, going to the gym at the end of the day. All right. Make sure you do this to ensure your mind is not crowded. You don't want a crowded mind. You can't even be productive with a crowded mind. You'll just feel stressed. you'll feel confused, you won't be able to be productive. Be ready for culture shift. For every employee, flexibility is very important. All right? Flexibility is very important. So you should be able to adapt to any culture shift that occurs. But at the end of the day, if this culture shift occurs, um, can I still maintain my performance? Can I still maintain my productivity? So you need to be confident in yourself. Be confident in the kind of efforts that you're putting in. Be confident in the kind of work that you're giving. Rethink the concept of work. I did mention a few minutes ago, you're not a robot. So rethink the concept of work. It's not just getting into your laptop, working, working, working. Try and be flexible. Try and be flexible and understand your commitments. Understand your commitments, and at the end of the day, you need to be patient with yourself and with your colleagues. You need to be patient. How do you manage your overall well-being? How do you manage your overall well-being? You've seen what to do to get to a proper well-being. So how do you manage this? Exercise regularly. It helps to clear your mind. View mental health as seriously as physical health. If something is stressing you, talk about it. Don't die alone. Don't soak it all on yourself. Try and reach out to someone. Reach out to someone you can trust. Talk about things that are heavy on your mind. Breathe. All right. Check in with your manager or team regularly. So you can have maybe weekly meetings with your manager. The end of the week, talk about how the week has been, the challenges that you've experienced, because it's important to talk about the challenges, so that if you're not able to deliver, you reached out to someone, you're able to communicate on, what you experienced and what you needed help with. We talked about over communicating. Separate your professional and personal lives. Work and personal life is important. So make sure you have a balance between your social life and your work life. You should maintain a social balance. Organize in-person social meetups. As much as we are working remotely and we meet up on Zoom meetings and Google Meets, it's important to have in-person meetings. There's the kind of communication uh, and rapport that you get from people and relationships that are built by in-person meetings more than these video conferencing meetings. All right. So that's how you maintain your well-being. I think from there I'm going to pause for the last set of questions. If you have any questions so far for what we've covered, do we have any questions? So I'll just reiterate what Sandra has been saying in the chat box. Certificates are given to people who've attended the session. So like this session, if you've attended it, make sure that you fill in the attendance form. Certificates will be shared to people who actually attended the session. All right. Chimezia says there's always the tendency to overwork when working from home. It is a possibility, and you're very right. Sometimes you imagine, just at home, I can push myself till around 8 or 9 or 10 p.m. But at the end of the day, we talked about your mental well-being. Will you stress yourself if you push your boundaries that much? Or sometimes there are days then you can work longer hours than others, but it doesn't need to be every day. That's why we talked about planning. Know what is expected of you at the end of the day, and how you can separate that into smaller achievable tasks. All right. Awesome. Do we have any question? Do you have any question? I'll remind you again to fill in the Google Bootcamp link. The Google Hustle Academy. Make sure you sign up for the Hustle Academy. You'll be able to really learn a lot on how to run your business, how to scale your business. There's a lot of training that you might need, knowledge and skills that you'll gain from the Google Hustle Academy, if especially you want to scale your business or you have a business idea that you want to work with. So sign up for the Google Hustle Academy. There's the link. It was shared in the chat box earlier. Sandra can reshare it again for you. So just paste it on your browser and sign up. Make sure you also follow us on all our social media pages. You can go to Digital Skills for Africa on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Give us a like, follow us. and always follow our content. So they're very informative contents that are usually shared. Make sure you follow us. You can also go to our social media pages, Impact Her on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. So go and follow us on our social media pages, click on like. Make sure you also subscribe to our YouTube channel. There are very many sessions that occur, that happen. There are very many sessions that we run. So just subscribe onto our channel, go over those sessions. If there are any upcoming sessions, you will get a reminder for when they are almost happening. So it's all about learning. And at the end of the day, we want to help you grow your business. And this is the kind of content that you need. All right. Do we have any question? I'll take the last question. We are 3 minutes past our time, but I'm very happy that we're all here. I've been looking at the chat section. The interaction was awesome. This was really good. I love your energy. It's very contagious. Yeah. And I was so happy to have this. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. Goodbye. See you next time. Right? Bye.